This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
You're listening to the Voices of the Vic podcast with Ben Aiton and Mike Duffy. This episode contains some strong language.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Mike Duffy and Ben Aiton. We're also joined by Tom Wicks from the Pages Fanzine. Ben, starting with you, how's your week been result aside yesterday?
Yeah, week's been pretty good, mate. I can't really complain. We're Premier League, aren't we? I'm still living on cloud nine. Just celebrating all week with pretty much. To be honest, I kind of forgot we was playing yesterday. It didn't feel like a match day at all. And because it wasn't really that important, really, was it? We knew we weren't really going to catch Norwich up, so it was a bit of a nothing game. And when it came 3 o'clock, it was like, oh shit, we are actually playing football today. And then, fully recovered from our drinks on Saturday night. I didn't have a hangover, which is pretty good for me. I normally suffer really badly, so I'm quite happy with that. How's your week been, mate? And how's ahead Sunday morning? Did you manage to play Sunday League football? Was you left back or was you in goal?
Good stuff. Yeah, no, my week's been all right. You know, as you say, the build up to the game yesterday was almost non-existent, and you know we'll talk about the social media boycott in a minute. But I mean, football aside, week's been brilliant. My head was absolutely fine on Sunday. I was dreading getting up on Sunday because I thought I am going to feel horrendous here, and I woke up. And I've developed this really annoying habit recently of waking up around 6, half 6, even at the weekend. And I was up and I went to football and I played in goal, got 90 minutes. We won 5-2, so I was happy with that. But
conceded 2 goals, though. Wouldn't be that happy.
Well, one I'll hold my hands up for. The other, it was, I'll tell you what the other one was like. It was like Lazar's pass back to Daniel Bachmann.
He's so short.
I was sold very short, but then it was my fault for the second one. I called keepers when I thought the ball was closer to me, but in actual fact, it was not very close to me, and the defender didn't head it because I'd shouted keepers, and then their guy got a free head and just headed it in. So not my wisest hour, but I was playing in goal. And that was probably the first time I played 90 minutes in about 3 years. And I kid you not, it was probably about Wednesday or Thursday I stopped aching. Like I just don't understand. But yeah, it was good. No left back appearances for me. So the wingers were happy that they weren't getting absolutely crunched. But yeah, all good, thank you. And like I said, we are joined by Tom Wicks from the Pages Fanzine, and Tom's been on before. I'm trying to think the last time you was on. It's been a while. But how's things been for yourself, Tom? All good?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, like yourselves, I'm still buzzing after last weekend's. I think it was last time I was on was about January. It's after the Huddersfield game. So it's a very different position that we're in then.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a season even since that game, you know. So yeah, it's glad to hear you're doing well. And towards the end of the show, we'll be you'll be telling us about the new issue of the Pages Fanzine coming out. So we look forward to that. But we are here, obviously, to talk about yesterday's 2-0 defeat at the Brentford Community Stadium against Brentford. I mean, result-wise, disappointing, but I think Ben, you summed it up perfectly. You know, I feel bad for saying this because obviously I want my football team to win all the time, and I never want us to lose, but it just didn't have that feel to it yesterday. And I think, obviously, with what's going on social media at the moment, for those that don't know, all the Premier League, I think most of the Football League, if not all of it, all the big governing bodies, they're basically boycotting social media as of, I think it was it Friday, 3 p.m. through till Tuesday, 1 minute past midnight. And obviously all of this is because of the online abuse And I think it's important to highlight as well. We're not just talking about racial abuse here. We're just talking about abuse full stop. And I think I wanted to bring up an example. Like, obviously, we know how ripe the racial abuse is at the moment, and it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, me and Ben picked up on it in the post Reading podcast when Liam Moore was subject to a poll that was quite frankly, it was disgusting, made by Reading fans. So I mean, we could probably do a whole podcast on the issue of racism within the game at the moment. But I mean, just on, it's not just about the racial abuse. There was an incident I saw in the week where, Soccer Saturday they go around the grounds and they've got a plethora of reporters that are going around the grounds. Now, remember when Chris Kamara was at Portsmouth and he missed the red card? I would probably say that is probably one of Sky Sports' most viewed clips around, like, on their social media. If you was to trawl through all of their videos, I would be pretty safe to say that's probably their most views. Everyone was laughing. Oh, Cammy's a legend. It's so funny. A couple of weeks ago, Michelle Owen is one of these Sky Sports pundits that they go to the ground in. I can't remember what game she was doing.
I saw this.
There was a similar incident. She'd missed a red card. I think it was a Walsall game, actually, coming to think of it. And it was put out on social media. They were expecting sort of a similar. I mean, even Jeff Stelling sort of replied in a similar way. He says, "Get your fingers out, count how many players," a bit like he did with Kamara. And I think they were expecting a similar response. But the response that Michelle Owen got in that, women shouldn't be allowed. This is why you don't get women on. And I'm thinking, that's out of order. When Chris Kamara did it, Cammy's a legend. Cammy's known for that, and everyone was laughing, and it was all funny and that. But because Michelle Owen's a woman and she's doing the football, it's like it's flipped it on its head, and she had to actually come off social media for a few weeks because of the abuse that she was getting. And I think that it was a highlight it was important to highlight that point. And it's not just racial abuse that they're trying to stamp out; it's abuse full stop. And the social media companies, it's as simple as, if you sign up to an account, you need to take a picture of your ID. Like, anyone that's got betting account, if you open a betting account, they ask you for a picture of your ID to verify everything. The same should be done for every social media, so these people can be held accountable. Another example, Ian Wright was racially abused by that lad in Ireland, and the judge let him get away with it. He says this is his first offence, and he's from a good background, and that he's got away with it. More needs to be done about it, and hopefully this boycott sort of wakes these social media companies up, and hopefully we can get that stamped out. And it's just bad to see. I mean, everyone is. It just felt so weird at the weekend, and we've still got another day or two of it. It just felt weird, and people have got to realise that this is what it will be like if it continues. So I just thought it was important to highlight that. I obviously don't want to give them any more airtime, but that's we've obviously done it on our social medias as well. Me and Ben aren't going to lie, it has been tough not being able to tweet, not being able, on a match day. We like to put tweets out. We like to get the fans' feelings. We like to, we see the build-up. The Watford Twitter, you can sometimes follow it on the timeline. So I felt completely lost yesterday, but something needs to be done about it, and hopefully they will. Let's actually get into the game itself. We didn't know what to expect team-wise. Now, Ben, when the team was announced, there was a few changes. I'll just run through the team. It was Bachmann, Messina, Sierralta, Cabaselli, Cathcart, Gosling, Hughes and Cleverley, Sema, Gray and Hungbo. And we saw Pochettino on the bench as well, which was good. Other than that, it was your usual run-of-the-mill players on the bench. Was you expecting quite the amount of changes that we made, Ben, or was you sort of maybe a bit surprised? Obviously, we know we didn't have anything to play for. Yes, Xisco alluded to wanting to challenge for the title in the week, but let's be honest, a Norwich win, to ask for them not to win in the last two games would have been a big ask. So what was your general thoughts around the team news yesterday when that come out?
I was hoping that we was going to play a strong side still, just in case Norwich did slip up, because we would have kicked ourselves if Norwich ended up losing yesterday and we didn't give it our absolute everything and played all our top players. But it was a much weaker side than what we would have wanted to field against Brentford, that we could have hoped for, really. We were without our two top goal scorers in Ismail Assar and João Pedro. And then when you also add in to that, Kiko was missing, Nathaniel Chalobah were missing, who have both been phenomenal as well. This season, you just knew it was going to be one of those afternoons. You knew it was going to be a tough afternoon, and you probably knew deep down that Watford weren't going to get anything out of the game. Delighted for Humbo to start his first Watford match as well, but just gutted how it ended for him.
Yeah, he come off with a hamstring injury, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday's team moves raises the question, and you might have the answer to this, but what's going on with Jeremy and Ngakia? Like, yes, Cathcart's been brilliant at right back when he's been called upon, but is he injured? What, I just don't understand what's going on with him.
A couple of weeks ago, he was Watford tweeted saying that he had a minor knock, and that's why he wasn't fit enough for one of the games. I think it was a game after the Luton game, so that's why he wasn't in contention for that. I think it was a Norwich away game when we played Cathcart at right back. So Watford actually said that he had a minor knock, and obviously that minor knock's probably kept him out of the side for longer than he's expected. We might see him this weekend, but I just doubt it now.
Yeah. I mean, we think this lineup's a bit weird. I'm looking forward to seeing what he looks like against Swansea at the weekend.
Well, we've got nothing to play for that one now.
Exactly.
The title's gone. So, yeah, just play the youngsters, play the under 23s.
Do you know what, though? A little part of me would like us to absolutely, batter them. Because at one stage, they were so confident that they were going to pip us, and they were calling us bottle jobs and everything. So even though it's a nothing game, I would love us to absolutely hammer them. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy if, that young lads that we've got up front for the under 23s, give him a run out. Was it Couture?
He looks good, doesn't he?
He looks very, very good. Now, Tom, obviously we've spoken about, how we felt going into the game. What was your general feel going into the game? Did you think that team was strong enough to maybe come away with a point? Would you have been happy with a point? Did you want the win? What was your general thoughts towards the game?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, the game wasn't really that important, was it, really, in the whole grand scheme of things? After it was a bit of a case of sort of after the Lord Mayor's show, really, which is to be expected. They've all probably, had a few beers. I saw at least two of them with cigars as well. So fair play to them for doing that. But yeah, I thought it was a bit of a kind of mishmash of a lineup. I wasn't really sure the message that he was that Xisco was making there. I mean, he had Hungbo in there as Ben said, which was brilliant. Absolutely delighted for him making his first start. But then it was sort of, Senma was still in there. He could probably have done with a rest. Gosling. I mean, there's a couple of players sort of waiting in the wings, or a couple of the youngsters that may have been given a chance. I mean, Wilmot perhaps instead of Cabaselli. I don't know. But then again, it was almost as if he wanted a point from it. I didn't feel as though he had the strongest lineup, but then again, I didn't feel as though he was using it as an opportunity for the kids to play, perhaps, or some otherwise, some players to get experience that wouldn't otherwise have got a game there.
Yeah, and I think you alluded to it, Ben. We could have risked Chalobah, we could have risked players like that, but at the end of the day, we were fighting for the title in a sense, but as I say, it would have been a big ask for Norwich to. I mean, they did go 1-0 down, but then they ended up winning 4-1. So it would have been a big ask to maybe. You don't want to risk playing Chalobah. I know he's been playing for a couple of injuries. I think Troy Deeney alluded to it in the WD18 interview. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that already, go and check it out after the boycott, because YouTube's been boycotted as well. But yeah, best one yet. Completely agree. But I think Troy alluded to it, that Chalobah's been playing through injuries. So, do you really want to risk playing him and maybe making it worse just for the sake of Brentford, where, it was a nothing game, really? And I think it sort of started like that. I think Tom alluded to it, a couple of being on the beers at the weekend, and, obviously Andre Gray, he was still smoking that cigar the next day when he was on Instagram Live. And so I think it was telling that, we just won promotion and they may have been a little bit rusty, but I think the game sort of started like that as well, didn't it? It was very slow. I think our best chance was probably Dan Gosling 10 minutes in, I believe. I think Cathcart had one just before that, but he glanced ahead of wide. But Do you think Gosling should have done better with that chance, Ben, or am I being too harsh thinking he should have done better?
I actually thought Watford actually started the game quite well. The first 10 minutes, we had two good opportunities. Like you say, Cathcart had a header where he was unmarked and put it wide of the post from a cleverly free kick. And then it was an explosive run from Hungbo, wasn't it? Where he was driving from pretty much the halfway line to the edge of the box. And then he got brought down, but the ref was playing an advantage. Ball fell nicely to Gosling. But if I was Gosling, I'd be disappointed there. You've got to really try and test the keeper better than that. It was pretty much straight at Raya. So he should have done better with that. But I would have liked John Moss to actually bring it back for a free kick there, because it was a clear and obvious foul on Hungbo. We didn't score, so I wanted the advantage to be over.
Yeah, well, I mean, was that inside the box for you? I mean, I'm just watching it back now, and you've seen them given, haven't
maybe.
you?
Yeah, I'd say it was outside. Wasn't enough for it to be inside for me personally. It was exciting to see him drive with the ball and that with like no fear at all. We've said this before on his debut at Old Trafford. He's got no fear. He's just very positive, and he just gets the ball, and his first intentions to get it forward, and to see his burst of pace yesterday and to drive to the edge of the box. It was good to see, and it's like this is signs of what he can actually do. And like I said earlier, it was absolutely gutted for him to come off with looks like a hamstring injury. Sisco's said after in the interview that it doesn't look too serious, but you've got to be gutted for him. He looked gutted when he came off.
Yeah, you would. I mean, it sort of reminds me, obviously not on the severity levels, but it reminds me of Tom Delibashiru. He had such a great start to the season, and then hopefully we'll be seeing him back next season. Just sticking with Hungbo, Tom, I'd be interested to get your viewpoint. Do you see a place for Hungbo in this team next season, considering we've now been promoted, or do you think maybe a loan is better for him, or would you be happy playing him?
I think it would largely depend on the incomings in summer and obviously the outgoings. I mean, it would be great as a kid coming through the under 23s. I know we got him from Palace, I think, originally.
Yes.
But it'd be great to see a player kind of progress, because that's not happened in the last few years. And I think, following relegation, I think that was something that that Gino Pozzo and Scott Duxbury were kind of keen to change and to show that there's a route from the youth sides into the first team. So I think he's a really exciting prospect. It'd be great to have him in and around the squad next year, I think.
Yeah, I think this was something else that Troy alluded to in one of his interviews. And I think since the Pot, and listen, I'm not slagging off the Pozzos one bit, but before the Pozzos, Watford was very much a club of you bleeding through the youngsters from the youth team. Some of them weren't very good, but they still got the chance. Michael Bryan, Matty Whitchlow, Adam Thompson, and that's just to name a few. I think perhaps the last one I remember coming through from the academy, and I know Hungbo coming from Palace, but he's still come through that route of the youth football to the first team. But the last one I can really remember is Sean Murray. Would I be right in saying that? There's not been another obvious one that I'm missing, is there? It's got to be Sean Murray.
I think there was Brandon Mason.
Yeah, Brandon Mason.
And Michael Falevi as well. That was the season under Mazzari, wasn't it? And we had terrible injuries at the time. And I think we were playing Tottenham at home, and Brandon Mason come on. I think Michael Falevi played a part as well. And then
he was on the bench a few times, wasn't he?
That's
and I think he came off the bench at Stoke away.
So that was it. Yeah. So I mean, but the last one to really play a serious part in the team, I would say, would maybe be Sean Murray's the one that sticks out for me in terms of promise, potential. Unfortunately, didn't quite live up to the potential in the end, and he had a few personal problems, I believe. But it is going to be interesting to see what part Hungbo can play in this side next season. And I think Tom's hit the nail on the head there with it really does depend on if we, the incomings that will be coming in, and, will we look to recruit for that side? Will we stay with what we've got? Who knows? It's going to be very, very interesting. And, there's been a few transfer rumours already, which we'll get onto in the latter part of the show. Going back to the game, the crossbars took an absolute rattling yesterday. I mean, that's probably the most I've seen the crossbar hit. Brentford on the 17-minute mark, they had a deep free kick which evaded everyone, and I can't remember who it was at the back post, but he's just looped it over Backman. I think it's hit the bar and then gone out as well. But 30 minutes into the game, Ben, they did have the ball in the net. Very, very good call from the linesman, by the way, to spot this. It was Fours who I think actually got their goal in the end, their first goal.
Yeah.
He sort of snuck round from the corner and tapped it in, but it was it maybe this. I know it was obviously ruled for offside, but was a goal maybe coming for Brentford? Could you see that sort of not complacency, but could you see the tempo going that way towards the end of the first half?
Yeah, no, definitely. Brentford had a lot more possession, and I say looked a bit more free on the ball, playing with a bit more freedom, and then the chances kept on coming. Like I said, Watford's last chance was from Gosling on the 10th minute, and then we had those two injuries to Cleverley and Humbo, and it just switched over to Brentford, and Brentford were getting a bit more joy out of us. But it was good that we managed to go in that half time at 0-0, because I did worry that maybe if Brentford got 1 or 2 before half time, it could have ended up being 3 or 4, and we want to chase this good defensive record that I think we're actually level with at the moment with Preston, which is 30 goals. Because it was back in the day when Preston used to be really decent. I think they only conceded about 30 goals in the championship season, and I think we're level with them now. So all we can do is just tie with that now. So we got to go to play Swansea at home next week and hope we don't concede anything. And then we've got the joint best defensive record in the second tier of English football.
I thought you meant we were level with Preston this season, and I checked the table and they've conceded 55. I didn't realise you meant all together. That's some stat, that is, some find. At the moment, we do still have the best defensive record with 30 in the league this season. I believe it's Norwich who's the next best defence, having shipped 34. But I think you're absolutely right. You know, as you say, it was important to go into the break at 0-0, because the more that Brentford got the ball, you could see the confidence. Obviously, those 2 injuries sort of knocked the wind out of our sails as well. I mean, just in the first half, as you say, it was 0-0. Possession stats: 55 to Brentford, 45 for us. 6 attempts in total to Brentford, 1 shot on target. 2 attempts for Watford, 1 shot on target, and then 4 corners to Brentford and 1 to Watford. So, neither. I know there was a shot on target for both, but going into half-time, neither keeper really. Well, I don't want to say really tested, because obviously Backman put it straight at Gosling, but I don't think there was much to worry about in terms of either side. Was you maybe thinking going into half-time at 0-0 that we might actually get something here, even though it's a depleted side, or did you see that Brentford were growing in confidence and thought, hang on, we better hold on for these?
Yeah, I thought there were quite a lot of moments in that first half where we were under the cosh, and going in at 0-0, it was quite positive, to be honest. But we found quite a lot of times this season that very rarely do we have a game where we're good for the entirety of the 90 or bad for the entirety of the 90. So I kind of expected a bit of a reaction in the second half, but I think the Tom Cleverley injury on half an hour, that really changed it for me. And I think Zinkernagel was moved inwards and Success was put out wide. And once you lose a player like of Tom Cleverley's influence and his engine in the middle, I think it was always an uphill battle to win the midfield fight, really.
Yeah, me and Ben have highlighted numerous times this season how pivotal Tom Cleverley is in that midfield. As you said, the engine he's got, he chased down every lost cause, and he, at times yesterday in the second half, it almost looked like Ken was playing in the middle, and maybe they pushed Zinkernagel to number 10, or they pushed him out wide. I don't know, but obviously losing a player like Cleverley, he's going to sort of knock the wind out the sails. And we had no Chalobah as well, so it was Hughes, Gosling, and then Zinkernagel. So that's obviously a key player that you want when you're playing a team like Brentford. So obviously going into the break at 0-0, we were perhaps thinking, Brentford really sort of maybe slightly growing with confidence in the game. Let's just see how long we can hold on for, and we might nick a point, we might nick a goal, who knows. They didn't quite think that, and it was almost curse of the commentator. I think John Marks alluded to sort of hoping that Brentford didn't score. I think 46 minutes on the clock, and it was lazy defending, the ball completely across the face of goal, and that's probably the easiest goal that Fours will score all season, isn't it, Ben? But I think it's fair to say it was probably coming, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a very slow start from Watford, and we've seen this before. I said last week when against the Millwall side that we played last week, the second half, Millwall had 2 chances in the first minute in the second half, and it was like, come on, wake up! We can't just react like this after a half-time whistle. And it was exactly the same yesterday. I don't know if Brentford saw that and studied it and thought we could get a Watford straight away in the second half because they react really slowly. And that's what Brentford did, and fair play to them. It works. They got to the byline. I thought Sierralta should have done better. He let the ball go across his body there, where he could have easily put it out for a corner. Actually, to be fair, we've praised Sierralta this season, and I don't think it was his best game yesterday, and I think that needs to be highlighted. I thought Sierralta had probably a day to forget. I thought Tony had the beating of him on numerous occasions, even force. He didn't look strong enough yesterday. I don't know if that was down to the partnership change, because I thought Kabasele did all right, but Sierralta probably looks more comfortable when he's got Trusicon next to him, and that may be down to the language barrier as well. We've heard about they all talk different languages and communicate in that. When you take Trusicon out of it, who speaks about 2-3 languages, and put Kabasele in, who I believe just speaks French and English. I don't think Sierralta speaks French, and his English probably isn't great either. So I think that might have been a worry for Sierralta yesterday, and that's probably why we didn't see the best of him. But yeah, and then he ended up giving away a penalty as well. So,
I was just going to say that.
It was a day to forget for Sierralta.
Yeah, that links in quite nicely with what I was about to go on. Obviously, that was 46 minutes on the clock, not the best start in the world. And, you know, they always say a goal before half-time sort of changes it. Well, I think that set the tempo for Brentford, a goal just after half-time. I think it was really poor again. You know, they worked the ball down the side, and it was Messina's side, and he just about kept the ball in. I don't know who it was that crossed it, but it was a really deep cross. We didn't sort of deal with it. We didn't get the ball out. We didn't head it out for a corner or didn't clear our lines. And then it was clumsy, wasn't it? You know, not the most contact in the world, but absolutely a penalty. And I think maybe highlights, as you say, Ben, Sierralta's yesterday, his performance. But just with that goal, obviously, Tony stepping up. You only know, you know, there's only one outcome, and that was how he scored against us in the reverse fixture. He's only scored penalties against us. So, you know, I don't know whether that's credit to the defence that we've kept him out in open play and we've only sort of limited him to penalties. But Bachmann guessed the right way, but it was a brilliant penalty, and the you know, they were well on their way to 3 points, weren't they, Tom? And that really knocked the stuffing out of us, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it killed any chance of a fight back or any prospect of one after that went in. I mean, Dan Bachmann got very close to it. He must have learnt a lot from Gomez training down the years with him, because Tony's very difficult to read from when he steps up with his short run up. But yeah, you know, credit to Bachmann, but it was a great penalty, and yeah, it was always going to be difficult from there because we've got nothing to play for. So.
I mean, a lot must be said for the goalkeeping coaches. Obviously, Fozzie saved the penalty against Adam Armstrong earlier in the season. Bachmann saved 3 in the penalty shootout against Oxford, and he's saved one at Rotherham. He's saved, I'm sure he's saved others as well that probably eluded me at the moment. But you know, they obviously done the homework, because I think Tony went the same way in the reverse fixture as well, and Foster was in goal, and Foster dived the right way. But penalties like that, yes, it's a nice halt for the keeper, but it was so in the corner. You went reaching that, and you know, a player in the form that Tony's in, I think he's scored 30 goals in the league now, which is
the first time a player's done that since Glenn Murray for Crystal Palace.
Only could have recreated that form with us, but some things aren't to be, unfortunately. But you know, absolutely incredible player. Obviously, a load of people saying, you know, if we go up, can we look at getting him? Personally, I don't think we will. There'll be other bigger clubs that'll be sniffing around if Brentford don't go up.
I think it would be too expensive as well.
Yeah.
After the season he's had now,
they would demand.
You'd be looking 30-40 million for Ivan
Easy.
Toney now. So yeah, I think there's cheaper options elsewhere, and we're going to touch upon that a bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think the next best chance that we probably had was 72 minutes in, I want to say. Deep cross again. And Isaac Success did very well to sort of hold the ball up sort of get a strike and goal, Ben. And again, the bar was rattled, not for the first time in the game, but that was probably our best chance for the rest of the game, wasn't it, Ben?
Yeah, definitely was. It was a good opportunity as well. Really good long ball in from Messina out on the left-hand side. Finds Sarr at the far post. Not Sarr, Success on the far post. Chests it down and unleashes a powerful shot. I think he probably hit it too hard, if I'm totally honest. And then Raya manages to get fingertips and pushes it onto a crossbar. And I think if we're listening to the sources now at Brentford, the crossbar's still shaking. He hit it that hard, but yeah, great opportunity. Should have done better. I think there was another chance just a bit after where Zinchenko played in Parisio and he looked to dink for keeper, but yeah, enough said about that. We weren't good enough yesterday. I think we was on the piss still, like Tom said at the start of the show. I think Premier League football's in sight, and we've got the job done, and I don't think we can really say much else about the match, really.
No, I mean, they, as you rightly point out, obviously Zinchenko played a brilliant ball through, maybe a bit too wide for Paritza to take it on first time. I know it's easier said than done. He's a professional footballer, I'm not, but I think Brentford rattled the bar again on the 89th minute. But it wasn't a classic. It was great though to see Pochettino come on. I did like the fact that he came on, and maybe that was a bit of Cisco admitting that it was a bit of a nothing game. Let's throw youngster on, get some minutes. Unfortunately, couldn't have been in better circumstances for him. But it wasn't really to be for us yesterday. I mean, we've mentioned this already, but it feels weird saying this. I'm not too disheartened. Obviously, I want us to win, but is that the feel from your side as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of those games that will be forgotten, next year or down the line. Even when we're thinking, back to sort of 5 years' time, we won't remember this game. It's just a bit. I mean, I'm so pleased we're in this position where we didn't need any points against Brentford.
Yeah. Oh yeah, imagine if we had to.
that would have been a nervy watch. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, so absolutely chuffed that we got the job done last week.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, as we've said, obviously, unfortunately, it was a 2-0 defeat for Watford at the Brentford Community Stadium. I mean, if they don't go up, I must say I am gutted that we won't get the chance to go to the Brentford Community Stadium next season, because I've driven past it before. And it looks a decent stadium. I'm just not sure on the seat colours.
I was going to say the same. I'm not too sure on what they've done with the seats. I think Indonesia have done the same over in Italy at their ground as well. I think what they do, they do it different colours, so it looks like when they don't have a full crowd, there's people actually sitting in the seats.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's why they do it. And as you say, Udinese do it as well. So, yeah, it's unfortunate defeat, but, with Premier League, who cares? I mean, obviously, I do care because I don't want Watford losing, but at the end of the day, with Premier League completely on the beach by the looks of yesterday's performance, hopefully we can turn up next week against Swansea, and it'd be nice to win, because that home record is phenomenal, and we've only lost 2 at home all season. I know the season's done now, but I wouldn't like. I don't want us to lose again at home. I really want to keep that record intact. And, I know it means nothing now, but I tried having a look over the past few seasons. And I think if we win on Saturday at home, that will be the best home record in the last 10 years that anyone's had in the Championship, I think. And I think it was Wolverhampton Wanderers that had 53 points. Is the best record in the last 10 years. So that is some going, and hopefully that continues on Saturday. Before we answer your questions that you've sent in, guys, we're going to go to a quick break, and then after the break, we've got some topics that Ben has very, very kindly put together, because there's been a lot of news since the promotion's been confirmed, and it'll be good to talk them through. So we'll go to a quick break now, and then we'll be back with some topics and your questions. Voices of the Vic is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in the men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs. Get 20% off now and free delivery with the code VOTV at manscaped.com. Manscaped has just launched in the UK, and we've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You can be one of the first men in the UK to experience their life-changing products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ever ball trimmer ever created and just released a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. The third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. Yeah. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. It's waterproof as well, so it allows you to groom in the shower. And one of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Show off your mower loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by just USB. So if you're listening right now, I want you to experience that firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to the touch clean. It's 20% off plus free delivery with the code VOTV at manscaped.com. Make your testes your besties. Get 20% off and free delivery with the code VOTV at manscaped.com, and your balls will thank you. Thank you for rejoining Voices of the Vic. We really do appreciate it. As I said before the break there, Ben has been hard at work. I think you sent me 5 pages worth, Ben. So you've been a busy boy, haven't you? Getting these topics together.
I like to do my bit.
Yeah, mate, absolutely, and it's massively appreciated. The first bit of news is Adam Messina was named in the Championship's Team of the Season at the EFL Awards ceremony. He played 23 games. We had 17 wins in those 23 games, 14 clean sheets, and as Ben has rightly put here, 2 huge goals. That winner against Nottingham Forest, which was another drab game, but he got us a winner. And that first free kick that we scored since Alman Abdi against Aston Villa back in 2015-16 season. So, I mean, I'm delighted for him, and he has been a key part. You know, to be honest, he's another one where people rightly questioned him at stages in the season, but I'm just surprised he's been chosen. And that's not me being biased. I think there's a lot of Championship fans out there that are maybe surprised that Messina's got in the squad. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Tom? Was you maybe a bit surprised when you saw that he was named, and maybe not like, well, I could reel through the whole squad, but yeah, you get my point. But was you perhaps a bit surprised that it was him that got in the squad?
Yeah, maybe a little. I mean, it's always a bit of a strange one with those sort of teams of the season. I mean, personally, I've only been watching Watford this season, and our opponent, so I can't say I've watched any other. Who's the right back for Norwich that got in the team?
Oh, Max Aarons. Yeah.
I mean, he was chosen over Kiko, who's probably our player of the season. But again, I haven't watched Norwich, so I mean, it's always a bit funny with those teams of the season, because each fan base has their own view on it. But I can't profess to have watched more than 2 Norwich games in the ones that they played us. So I'm not going to get too sort of upset about it. The important thing, like for me, is that we go up. The personal accolades are great for the players and stuff, but take that with a bit of a pinch of salt, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the next bit of news we've got here as well is to do with the stadium. Obviously, me and Ben have spoke about in the last in a couple of podcasts ago. This whole move to Bushy, is it right? Do we want it? But Ben, it's now been announced that there's plans to redevelop Vicarage Road and expanding it to 30,000 fans. Building work possible before 2025, and the first phase would be to add 4,000 seats to the Sir Elton John stand, and then add a further 5,000 seats to I was going to call it the Rouse then, the Graham Taylor stand. Do you think that's probably a better option? Because I think we talked about it a little bit in one of the podcasts, but Vicarage Road holds a lot of memories for a lot of people. So surely this makes more sense to expand this. Let's get it to 30. Let's see if we fill that 30. Because I think I vaguely remember there was a point where Watford had the biggest amount of no-shows on the match day. So let's try and fill that 30. And then who knows what might happen in the future. But would you much prefer it this way, Ben, expanding Vicarage Road?
Yeah, 100%. I think all fans feel the same, but everyone doesn't want to leave Vicarage Road. It holds so many memories for everyone, whether it's from them being a kid or them being older and taking their little ones along to Vicarage Road, and all the special games we've seen there, like the Troy Deeney goal against Leicester, just remarkable, and we'll never ever forget these days. But I think the first thing that we need to think about is redeveloping Vicarage Road before we even look at other places. And with what the government are doing now, they've ended up giving a lot of money to NHS hospitals, and they're looking to redevelop Watford General Hospital, and they're looking to rebuild parts of the hospital, and that's what's looking to help out Watford's case of staying at Vicarage Road, because where the back of the rail stands is, the hospital is moving from that site completely. So there's like a massive bit of land that's got buildings on at the moment, but that would be knocked down, and Watford would actually have that bit of land to actually build on. And that's if the NHS didn't have that funding from the government, Watford would have had to look elsewhere, because you can't physically build because you've seen Vicarage Road, it's so tight, isn't it? Like the back gardens back onto pretty much the Elton John stands. You can't build at the back now because they've put the flats there, and you can't build beyond the Vicarage Road end because you've got the road there. So with the hospital moving slightly out of position now, it allows us to build a massive stand over where that Graham Taylor stand is. So I think that's helped out massively, and I'm all for staying at Vicarage Road.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that. I know this is a bit off topic, but where the allotments were, are they going to be flats, are they?
That looks like it's going to be... is it going to be a car park, Tom, for the hospital, do you know?
I think so.
I think it's a multi-storey car park if they're going to do for a hospital, is going to build there, but we can't even build back onto that because we ended up building flats at the back of the Rookery, so we can't do any building work there now.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I much prefer that way. I much prefer expanding Vicarage Road. As you say, so many memories. Troy Deeney goal. Juan Carlos Paredes, his debut. That's got to be up there as well. That was absolutely unbelievable. I'm still yet to see a better debut. Like
Robbie Savage breaking his leg at Vicarage Road as well.
I am maybe a bit too young to remember that. I did not know he did that.
What about saving Alban Gora and him staying?
That was brilliant. What about
Marlon King being injured and then he coming on at half time, giving a massive, trying to roar the crowd up to try and keep us promoted? What about Tamas Priskin's first goal in the Premier League, but then it got postponed and called off against Wigan because
I was at that game.
Pitch.
I was in the Vicarage Road end, and Paul Jewell come on the pitch as well. I think Paul Jewell was manager for them, and it was Adi Boothroyd and Paul Jewell kicking in the goal towards the Rookery, towards the Vicarage Road end, because I think the referee was trying to illustrate, look, it's absolutely tipping it down here. The ball's just holding up and it's not even moving. Like you say, so many memories. I remember that.
It's falling off the structure.
Yeah, I remember that chap that was on X Factor, and I think Sharon was his mentor. And didn't he bring her to? They come on the pitch at half time once. That might have been against Southampton, the 7-4 in the League Cup as it was back then. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Do you know what as well? Sorry to cut in there.
Carry on.
It's as well as all the memories that we've got, which is, it crosses so many generations. But Vicarage Road is such a unique ground.
Yeah.
All the new most of the new stadiums, they're these sort of Lego built bowls, and apart from the colour of the seats, there's nothing you can differentiate them from. But Vicarage Road's got real character, and if they can redevelop it or increase the size of it, whatever they want to do, they should absolutely do that. There's no reason for us to, in my view, outside of the commercial side, for us to go. It's embedded within the heart of the community. We're couple of minutes walk from town. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right there. We talked about, whether you walk from the train station, that walk up to Vicarage Road when you can see the stadium through the high street, and it holds so many memories. And I think you're absolutely spot on. If they can redevelop that and make it more capacity, then I'm more than happy, and I'm sure loads of others will. And hopefully that is the case. Moving on to some injuries now. We obviously no Kiko Femenia yesterday. He'll miss the Swansea game as well. He picked up a groin injury last weekend against Millwall in the 1-0 win. Isaac Success was obviously back in full training. He missed the Millwall game due to a minor knock. Troy Deeney's undertaking conditioning work outside with a view to rejoin the full training during the week ahead. So, I mean, could we maybe see him on the bench against Swansea? Who knows? It might be too soon. I'm not sure. But and then also aiming to return to the first team squad for training is Tom Delibashiru, who's continued his outdoor rehab work. And boy, I can't wait to see him next season. Hopefully, he's, that injury hasn't done him too badly. And then, it's this part of the season's not even finished yet, but there's some transfer news already. We've opened talks with Chelsea over signing the exciting young striker EK Ugbo in a £5 million deal. Now, he's 22 and he's been on loan at Cercle Bruges in Belgium this season, and he scored 16 goals in 32 appearances. And before that, he was at a team called Roda where he'd scored 13 goals. In I can't remember how many appearances. Cercle Bruges had an option worth £5 million to make the deal permanent, but he'd prefer to move elsewhere. I don't know whether he'd prefer to be over in England, but it's believed that the initial discussions began earlier this month, and another meeting scheduled within the next few weeks, and it's still in the early stages. I mean, Ben, first time I've ever heard of him. It's tough to judge him without actually watching him, but it looks like we're going with youth again, and we really want to push his youthfulness in the side, doesn't it? He's only 22.
Yeah, really young guy, but he's got quite a lot of experience. I think he's had about 10 loan spells away from Chelsea. He's one of,
yeah,
I think he might have been one of, he's one of the Chelsea academies that they tend to loan out and just carry on loaning out until his contract expires and then he moves on. But they've got a lot of hopes for him. I'd be a little bit surprised if they let him go if I was a Chelsea fan, because I've had a look at some of his goals and that. He's a bit of a poacher. He doesn't really score goals outside of the penalty box. All of them are coming just inside a 6-yard box or by the penalty spot. He's always in that area. And if you think if we had Ken Sema and Saab putting in the crosses in, which we've done this season, cutting in the byline, putting them into the box, and have eluded Gray sometimes or eluded Pedro, I think Ugbo would be there to put them away. So it's an exciting possible signing. But what I will say is this is all happening because we've got promoted. We've got the advantage of actually being promoted with 2 games left in hand. I know we played it yesterday, but we've got 1 game left now. There's teams in the playoffs that can't prepare for next season because they don't know what division they're going to be in. Bournemouth don't know if they're getting promoted or not, or staying in the Championship. Whereas Watford, they've secured promotion last week, so we can full steam ahead and look at transfers and that. And I think that's why we're seeing so many rumours coming out now. And we actually saw a medical midweek as well, didn't we, Mike?
We did indeed, yeah. He's going to completely do me trying to pronounce his name. Kwadwo Bar, I think I've got that right. He had a medical at Watford on Wednesday. He's 18 years old and he's been playing at Rochdale and he's out of contract for them in the next few weeks. And he scored 3 times in 29 League One appearances. He was actually very, very close to joining Man City in January, but supposedly failed a medical. Now, that was on the 72club.co.uk when we found it, and I think the Athletic have picked on it up since we found that link. But Tom, I think Ben alluded to it perfectly there, and perhaps where we've gone wrong in previous seasons, it has massively helped that we are already promoted before the end of the season, and the Pozzos are surely, in our eyes, they're doing the correct thing to start looking already and not wait for the season to be over, and they're obviously going for youthful players. So exciting times to be a Watford fan at the moment with these transfer links coming up, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the Pozzos would have been preparing for this eventuality maybe a year ago, as soon as we got relegated, there would have been, got no doubt there would have been scouting for players for, when we, or if at the time we were to return straight away. So this is probably long in the running, but now, as you said, they can actually take some steps, and they've got such an advantage, as Ben said, over the playoff teams, and hopefully that'll be good for our summer acquisitions. I mean, looking at the last time we went up, we picked up some real gems.
Yeah.
Like Barami, Capu, Holabas, Prodel, I think, came in as well. So I think we do need some additions, and it's an exciting time.
It is indeed. We're also linked with AFC Wimbledon striker Joe Pigott. Now, Ben, when you put this one out on social media, it's fair to say it got a bit of a mixed bag of reactions. He's 27 years old, so he's usually on his side. He scored 20 goals this season. I don't know if he scored yesterday for Wimbledon.
Yes, he did. He scored yesterday, so he's up to 21 now.
21 goals in all competitions, and he's out of contract at the end of the season. And I don't know, did Wimbledon win yesterday? I know they're in a bit of a relegation scrap, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they drew yesterday against a team who's higher in the division as well. So they're fighting for their lives, and he's still managing to score. Oh no, they actually lost 3-1 yesterday.
It's all good.
Just 3-1 to Portsmouth.
Just as well, this isn't an AFC Wimbledon podcast. We would have looked like right idiots then. But yeah, no, as you say, 21 goals, 27-year-old for a team that's fighting relegation. I mean, personally, if he was a little bit younger, then yes, I'd take a hit on him. But I don't think he'd play much in the Premier League, if I'm being honest. And he definitely wouldn't be starting over Pedro or whoever else we bring in. So, yeah, the Daily Mail have... I don't know where they put that one out of.
It feels like his agent's trying to get him a move.
Yeah. I tell you what, if his agent does get him a move, then bloody hell, that agent will be he'll be held in high regard if he pulls this one off. I tell you. And Rob Elliott as well. It was his birthday the other day. We can't tweet obviously because of this boycott, and it was Javi Gracia's birthday yesterday. So massive happy birthday to him, the absolute king. And it was Rob Elliott's birthday the other day as well. He's actually likely to earn himself another contract after agreeing a short-term deal in January. He's impressing his peers and staff. So, it'll be good to have around in the Premier League. It'll be one of them that'll be good to have around the dressing room. And I think a lot of people will actually be surprised, but I think he's actually played quite a big part in helping us get over the line. But, we look at Gomez when he wasn't playing, key figure in the changing room, and it's cliche to say he'll be an important player in the dressing room. But let
me compare him and try and make sense to what you're all saying for everyone else. Rene Gilmartin.
Yeah, absolutely key. You could tell that he was such a key character. Brilliant on co-coms, by the way. Absolutely superb. Him and John Marks were super, but he really did impress that season, didn't he? But he's likely to earn himself another deal. And then Pontus Dahlberg, he's set to spend another season on loan. Now, I don't know about you, Ben. I'm a little bit disappointed reading that. And I would be if I was Dahlberg as well.
A little bit, but you've seen how well Batman is doing this season. Do you really want to stop the development of Batman as well by bringing back Paul Dahlberg and maybe putting Batman on the bench? I don't think you'd want to be doing that to Batman at the moment. And Dahlberg's thriving with the first team football he's getting at the moment. So I wouldn't want to stop his development either for him to sit on a bench in the Prem. So yeah, I'd let him stay out for another season on loan and then reassess after that.
Would you keep him where he is at the moment at Harken in Sweden, or would you bring him out on loan over here to get experience of English football? That is a question.
Cool, that's a good question. He's done phenomenal over in Sweden, hasn't he? Would you want him to come over and play Championship football? Possibly, if you want to maybe build up his physical side to the game, because English football is much more physical than the Swedish football. Because I watch lots of Swedish football.
Swedish football expert, Scandinavian football expert over here. Ben Aiton.
I knew about Ken Semmer when he was 12. So yeah. But yeah, possibly bring him over to a top half Championship side and see what he can do.
I mean, we're saying this. The article does then go on to say he would then return next summer once Foster leaves. So the it is likely that Foster's leave. I mean, I read an article in the week, and it's silly transfer time. And Ben Foster was linked with Man City, and it's obviously to do with filling the quota. I think Scott Carson's finally going to be let go from City, and they need someone to fill the English quota for the Champions League. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dolberg. Some good news as well. Will Hughes and Nathaniel Chalobah extending their contracts is on the agenda. They're both heading into the final year of their deals, and this is all from The Athletic, by the way, that we got this news. So brilliant stuff from them. But how key is it? I mean, this might sound like a silly question to you, Tom, but how key is it that we sort of pin them down and get them new contracts? Like throw the check at them, let them pay them what they want. It is key that we keep hold of them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they were obviously being key to our successes this season. Perhaps Chalobah was a little late to bring his best form to the table, but yeah, I mean, they're at great ages as well, so it's not going to be kind of dead money in the way that perhaps the Andre Gray and Troy Deeney deals might be sort of considered. They've still got years in them, and yeah, I think that's the first priority, I think, for Gino over the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And the fact that we almost lost Chalobah, I was talking to you about this in the week, Ben. That was, looking back on it, I don't think anyone actually realises how crazy that actually was. Like, Leicester wanted Chalobah, but they wanted him to replace Chowdhury because Newcastle wanted Chowdhury, but then we wanted Longstaff, but they wouldn't let him go until Chowdhury came over, and then Leicester wouldn't let him go until we sold Chalobah. So it was an absolutely crazy triangle, and it was an absolute madness. And thank God it was so complicated, because Chalobah then went on to thrive. We would usually do your questions, but we are a bit pushed for time, so we will make sure 100% that we do them next time. So last time, we always say thank you very much for the questions, and we really do appreciate it. So yes, we haven't read them out, but we will 100% read them out next week. And obviously, if you then send in more questions, we will do. Swansea next, lads. Just quickly, just to get your thoughts on the game, and then a little score prediction. Ben, how are you seeing this one panning out? And then just give me a little score prediction, please, buddy.
Well, I think we're on the beach already, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they come back from the beach a little bit, because I don't want to end the season on back-to-back defeats. And with our home form as well, I want to continue that. And you touched upon the record that we could possibly chase with that Wolverhampton record. I want us to play our strongest team that we've got possible. I know there's lots of niggling injuries and that.
Okay.
We could see the likes of maybe Troy Deeney coming back as well. That would be good to see if he can have like a cameo appearance from a bench. But it'd be a tough game. I think Swansea need to play good football and try and probably win back-to-back games after they won yesterday against Derby, and they need a bit of momentum for the playoffs, just like Brentford did yesterday. So it's going to be a tough game. I think we've got enough. I just hope. Just hoping for a good performance. I'm going to go 1-0 Watford. I don't think it would be very pleasant on the eye.
No. Are you feeling that same way, Tom?
I think, it's not going to be. I mean, again, we've got nothing to play for, so it probably be in the same sort of vein to the Brentford game. To be honest, I'd like to see a couple more of the youngsters, or the players that wouldn't have got much of a run out, that are perhaps future prospects mixed in with a bit of experience, because Swansea are a great team, great championship team, and we may end up seeing them in the Premier League next year. So it'd be good to see the youngsters get a run out against good quality opposition. I'm personally not that bothered about the score or the result. Again, it would be nice to keep home form, but it would be good to see an entertaining game, really.
It would. If you was to be pushed for a score prediction, what would you say?
I'm going to say 2-1 to Swansea. I'm going to
Swansea.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow,
guys.
That's the first time anyone's ever gone against us, on the podcast. So you've surprised me. Listen, I think you boys have summed it up perfectly. I don't think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a very scrappy affair. Swansea might look to be, pushing and really trying to push us, because obviously they'll want as much momentum going into the playoffs. So I'm going to go 2-1 Watford. It's going to be a scrappy one, and I think we'll just come out on top. But it will be a very, very close game. Now, before we go, obviously Tom is the one of the editors on the Golden Pages fanzine, and Tom, you've got a new issue coming out, haven't you? You want to tell the listeners about that?
Yeah, have indeed. Yeah, at the end of the season, it'll be we've got an exciting season review issue of the fanzine. We've got some really good features. We've got an interesting interview with Micah Hyde. Got a look back at Lloyd Doyley's first Watford goal, and it's really the fanzine's got to focus on what we've missed about Vicarage Road and football during the last season. I've got some great articles from Watford fans. And what I've been working on this week, which is I'm really excited about, is a season review with a panel of Watford fans. I've been doing Zoom calls all week, collecting fans' thoughts about the season. So I've got a busy job to kind of get that all collated. And yeah, we've got a competition as well to win a copy of the sold out Troy Deeney special edition, which is signed by the man himself. After we had a chat with him, so. Pre-season, get ahead of myself. Pre-order is available now on our website, which is available on our social media, but it's also goldenpagesfanzine.ecwid.com, and I'll get those all posted out once they're all printed in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, like Tom said, make sure you go and check them out. Make sure you follow them on social media as well if you don't already. We obviously won't be tweeting about this podcast today, but on Tuesday we'll be tweeting everything, and we'll drop a link in there as well. So make sure you go over and pre-order that and get yourself entered into that competition. I think that was the one that we were lucky enough to do a little bit in as well, wasn't it, Tom? The Troy Deeney one.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you go and check that out. Really appreciate you coming on today, Tom. I just, sorry it couldn't be about a win, but who cares, man? We're Premier League, so I think that's all that matters. But thank you very much for coming on today, Tom. It really does mean a lot.
No, thanks for letting me come on. It's been great listening to you guys all season.
That's not a problem. Thank you very much. And before we do wrap up the show, I think I speak on behalf of Ben as well. And Ben, I don't know if you want to add anything, but we say this all the time about the podcast, but I think even more so after the last podcast, we just want to thank the listeners. Like the response that we got from that podcast, the numbers that it's doing, the individual messages, the messages in our DMs and everything, it's just been like absolutely incredible. And like I just can't believe that we've not even hit a year yet, and we're getting the feedback that we're getting. But that last podcast, I didn't envisage it going that well. I mean, I don't know if you want to add anything, Ben, but wow.
It was just crazy. Like I said during actually recording it, I thought it could either go two ways. Yeah. It's always a bit risky recording after a game and having a few drinks. And I said about having new listeners, they might listen to us and go, what the fuck are they going on about? I'm not listening to this again. But we actually had someone tweeting saying, don't worry guys, I'm a new listener, and I loved it. And for the figures that we've got and all the messages, like everyone passing the pods, it's just left speechless. And thank you everyone for listening and your continued support.
Yeah, absolutely, completely echo what you've said there. Myself and Ben will be back next week when we'll be talking about the Swansea game. We'll obviously tweet about that when it will be coming out. We will be joined by WD18 frontman Jacob Coulshaw next week, so make sure you tune into that one. But thank you very much for sticking with us. Thank you very much. Take care. Come on, you Horns.